Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me here again today. We are starting a brand new series on this channel and I'm really excited to share it with you. And it is going to be called Disney's Did You Know? So what that means is that we are going to talk a little bit about certain Disney animated films or short films or anything that you guys are interested in. I'd love to get your suggestions. Today I'm starting off with one of my absolute favorite Disney animated series, which is Frozen, and we are going to use this today to create our look while we talk about it. This is the ColourPop Frozen 2 box set for Elsa. So we've got the palette, we've got the glitter gel, the lipstick, and the gloss, all inspired by Miss Elsa. So we're going to create a look using this today while we talk about maybe some little known facts about the animated series, a few facts about the movies themselves, development-wise, and things that you may not know about them. So without further ado, let's get into creating the look and teaching you all about Frozen. See ya! Alright guys, well I've brought you in a little bit closer. I've completed the brows and I have prepped the eye for the look with a white base, which I know looks a little bit crazy right now, but we want these colors to pop. And we're going to go right into the eye look. Alright, so I'm going to blend a little bit of a transition color in here while we chat a little bit about the beginnings of Frozen and where it was going to go, where it ended up, of course. So initially, Walt Disney wanted to adapt the story of the Snow Queen back in 1937. That's when there was some storyboarding happening, and there are images available online, and if you watch the Making of Frozen documentary, you'll be able to see them. But there was some storyboarding happening and some concept art created for the story of the Ice Queen. Now, no actual real story kind of came out of that. The idea was just kind of floating. It was left and then nothing ever happened. So when Frozen actually came out, we are looking at a just short of 70-year gap between when the first storyboarding started for the Ice Queen and when Frozen was released, which is really cool to see that this idea kind of floated around and they waited this long for the story to finally come to fruition. And of course, I love how it turned out. There were so many different ideas sort of floating around if you read a little bit about it, about how Frozen was really going to end up. Anna and Elsa weren't even going to be sisters in the beginning. Elsa was going to be evil. And so many things happened in development that made it the story that it is today, and I'm so happy that it is the way that it is today. I love, love, love the sisterly bond between Anna and Elsa, and the story that it's not just like a romantic fairy tale, which really speaks to me. I love it, and I watch it with my daughter all the time, and I think it's such a great film. But that being said, what's kind of interesting about it too is that Elsa was going to be an evil Ice Queen the entire time until the Lopez's, who scored the film, wrote the song Let It Go, which of course everyone knows that song now. That is like the most iconic song from the film. Made them completely rewrite the Elsa storyline and change her character from being an evil Ice Queen to the Elsa we know today. And of course I love that song. That song is amazing. Such a great anthem. Now what's kind of cool about both of these characters is that each of them have their own birthdays, which is cool. I don't think that any other Disney character or princess has a full birth date, which is really interesting. Anna's birthday, of course, is on summer solstice, which the year that she was born was June 21st, 1821. And Elsa's birthday was on winter solstice, which is December 22nd, and she was born in 1817. So that's kind of interesting. Now, thinking about that, I would have imagined that Anna's birthday, based on how they have themed her, particularly in Frozen 2, she would have been on the autumn equinox, which is September 22nd. But I guess they really wanted them to be kind of polar opposites in that regard. So they ended up giving them like the complete opposite birthdays. Elsa's definitely makes sense, winter solstice, of course, being December 22nd. But Anna's, I feel like it probably should have been more like the autumn equinox, but here we are. They've, of course, got their own birthdays, and that's, I think, super cool, and a super cool sort of like tidbit of information about them, that they actually have actual birthdays. I tried to see if anyone else in the film had birthdays. Doesn't seem to be any information on that. But Anna and Elsa having their own birthdays is pretty friggin' cool. All right, well, it just got really dark outside, so I'm sorry if the lighting has changed because my window is open here, and it did get a little bit gloomier, so I'm sorry if the lighting has changed a little bit, but we're going to continue on and talk about the sort of background behind the design of Frozen. Now, all of the designers took a trip to Norway, Finland, and Iceland to get some information and ideas about the design, about how things like buildings should be designed, how to kind of create a fjord, and where Arendelle should sit and things like that, and sort of information about how ice glaciers are developed and what they look like and how big they get. And what's really cool is that when they went to check these things out, Jennifer Lee, one of the directors of the film, was looking at this giant ice wall. And that's where, of course, if you've seen Frozen 2, you know when she gets to Ahtohallan, it's this giant glacier. And Jennifer Lee saw a wall just like that when they were looking at these real-life glaciers up in the North Scandinavian area, and was instantly drawn to think that this would be where Elsa feels ice that is thousands of years old, and she is so connected with how these things are developed, and this would be her home initially, which is really kind of interesting to speak about, because the designers and the directors and developers and producers really talk about these characters like they're real people, because they are real people to them. These are characters that they've developed from the ground up, and it's really cool to hear them talk about it. And I would definitely recommend you watch the documentary on it, because you really feel how they feel about these characters. It's really, really cool to watch them develop under the supervision of these people who care about them so much. Did you know that Let It Go from Frozen 1 has been adapted and sung in 70 different languages? Isn't that freaking cool? If you watch the special features, if you have the DVD or the Blu-ray, who says DVD anymore? If you watch the Blu-ray version of Frozen 2, there are some special features on that, and there is a sing-along version of Into the Unknown that is sung in, I think, 40 languages. Correct me if I'm wrong. But throughout the entire song, they play through kind of like a music video, and you can hear it sung in all of these different languages, and it's really cool because obviously they've chosen artists or vocalists that can almost mimic Idina Menzel, which of course is literally impossible, but they've definitely taken special care into choosing vocalists who have a similar style and can kind of blend with Idina's voice, which I thought was really, really cool. They've taken that extra care and time to really develop and make Elsa exactly who she is in English in every other language, and make her actually sound like she does to us in English, which I think is incredible. Did you know that the official crest of Arendelle, which is this guy here, the little flower that's in there is called a crocus, and the crocus is a symbol of rebirth and new beginnings, which is kind of cool. Like when you think about it, the thought process that went into choosing something like that for a film like Frozen, a little bit of hidden information. Did you know that Elsa has over 420,000 strands of hair? That's a lot. Did you know that before the release of Frozen 2, Frozen 1 was the highest grossing animated film of all time? And now that belongs to Frozen 2. At box office, it grossed $145 billion at the box office, which is unreal, like blows my mind. I feel like maybe $1 billion of that was me because I went and saw that film so many times. Whoop. Did you know that Jonathan Groff, he voiced Kristoff in all of the films, obviously, also plays King George III in Hamilton? Did you know? Did you know that the pattern that you see on the majority of all of the walls and doors in Arendelle's castle, and quite a bit of it on a lot of the clothing, particularly Anna's, is called rose malling? and it is super popular in Norwegian design. And they found that out when they took a research trip to Norway. All right, it's time to go into that glitter gel. I'm very excited about it. It's called the Dark Sea. Can we talk about the names in this palette too? They are actually so cute. Cuddle Close, Fire, Northern Lights, Gale, Flurry, Water, Awakened, Ice Crystals, and Spindrift. Like, so cute. They really thought. The packaging is so nice. It's textured. It's of course got a picture of Queen Elsa on the front. This is such a cute little palette, and I'm so glad that I got it. So while I put on this glitter gel, let's talk a little bit about Frozen Fever, which came out at the beginning of the Cinderella live action feature film, which was released in 2015. So 2 years after Frozen came out, they decided to, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Wow. Okay, sorry. Frozen Fever was released as a short. It's 7 minutes long, and it came out with Cinderella, which came out in 2015. It was before the feature film, just kind of as a teaser, and it is so cute. The storyline is that Elsa wants to throw this beautiful birthday party for Anna, but she ends up getting sick, and Anna takes care of her. That's like the long story short. Of course, it features a new song and these cute little snowmen that keep popping up every time Elsa sneezes. And they're so cute. They're just these tiny little snowmen, and Olaf kind of befriends them, and they all show up to the birthday party and whatever. But they actually have names. They're called Snowgies, which I think is so cute. This glitter gel is so extra. Oh my gosh. It is very Elsa. Did you know, maybe you didn't know, but in the Broadway adaptation, or the Broadway performance of Wicked, Elphaba is played by Idina Menzel, who is also Elsa, which I thought is kind of cool to hear. Like, if you listen to the soundtrack or watch any performances of Idina playing Elphaba, and then you, of course, listen to her sing, you're like, yep, that's Elsa. Or I'm sure people who saw Wicked before they watched Frozen were like, yep, that's Elphaba. Like, her voice is just so iconic, and you can, of course, hear it in both adaptations of both characters. And it's really, really interesting to hear her adapt each character within her voice. She's got such a beautiful singing voice, and I absolutely adore her. I think she's incredible. Okay, I think for the most part the eye is done. I'm gonna pop on my lashes, and then we'll get back and do complexion. All right, lashes are on, and now I'm going to prime the skin, and we'll get right back into it. Something that I found relatively interesting and I thought was kind of cool is that in 2015, which was 2 years after the original Frozen was released, the name Elsa, you can see where this is going, Elsa became one of the more popular baby names come 2015, of course, as babies are born and they're being named. They're being named Elsa, apparently. And it topped it surpassed the top 500 and ended up at 286, I believe. The 286th most popular baby name in the United States, which it hadn't even surpassed the top 500 in terms of popular baby names since 1917. So almost 100 years later, Elsa ends up back on the popular baby name list, obviously because of Frozen, which I thought was kind of interesting. And the name Olaf was the #1 pet name in the United States for 2013, which I thought was kind of interesting too. Something else cool about names is the name Elsa actually is derived from the name Alice. Did you know that it took 75 animators over 4 years to animate Frozen 2? Isn't that crazy? On top of those animators, of course, there are storyboard artists and lighting directors. And another cool thing I learned while I was watching the documentary of Making of Frozen 2 is that there are actual, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Of course, I don't know anything about animation, but the cool thing is that there are actual camera angles per scene. So it's almost like they develop a scene. So for example, in the documentary, they used the scene where they're initially in the forest right before they meet the Northuldra, and Anna has the ice sword. They are showing this scene, and you can see that they can pick up different camera angles for that exact scene. So once it's animated, you're able to look at the scene for so many different angles, which I always imagine that when something is animated, maybe this is more specific to 2D animation, is that what you see on the computer screen is what you see. There isn't like an actual like area in which they've developed to have cameras almost placed within it, which I thought was so incredibly cool. It blew my mind to know that there's actual like, almost like they place cameras within the scene so you can look at the scene at different angles, even though none of it actually exists. Not like camera angles that you're filming a live action movie for. There's nothing to actually film. It's just animation. I don't even know if any of that made any sense, but it blew my mind to think that there is actually sort of like a filming process within an animated film, which is so cool. Did you know that Anna and Elsa kind of have their own category within the Disney Princess franchise, which is kind of cool because neither Anna or Elsa have ever had, from my knowledge as of right now, a coronation within the Disney parks, which most princesses do once they've become an established Disney princess for the most part. Like Rapunzel had one, Merida had one. They have a coronation at the park where they become part of the grouping of the Disney Princess franchise. And neither Anna or Elsa, although they are the most popular and highest grossing princesses in Disney as a whole, they aren't technically Disney princesses. Both of them now, as of the release of Frozen 2, are both Disney queens, which is new for Disney. So I don't think that they'll ever get their own princess coronation. That's why you don't often see them in that like traditional print of the Disney princesses. You see all of them kind of like in a background, almost like a photo shoot type idea where they're all kind of hanging out to be on a poster or whatever. It's very often, if not at all, do you ever see Anna or Elsa included in those. It's because they aren't technically Disney princesses, so that's kind of cool to know. Did you know that when they were developing Elsa and her movements when it came to her magic, they took inspiration from an American choreographer by the name of Martha Graham, who developed and was a key person in creating the ideal of modern dance, which is kind of interesting. And I did a little bit of digging and saw some videos of Martha dancing and creating choreography, and you can definitely see where they took inspiration from when it comes to how Elsa moves and how Elsa almost like dances with her magic, specifically in Frozen 2. It's really kind of a cool thing to see where the inspiration came from, so that's cool. Did you know that the water knock, which is the water horse that challenges Elsa in the Dark Sea when they are trying, or when she is trying to reach out to Holland, took 8 months to develop just on its own, which is crazy. Between all the animators and the directors, took 8 whole months to develop into what it is today, which is totally cool. Did you know that Elsa has her own signature snowflake, which is pretty cool? The very first time that we see it is in Frozen 1 in the opening sequence when we pan out to see the title of the film. In the beginning, we see that single snowflake that turns into the middle of the O in Frozen, which is pretty cool, and it shows up in every film. Did you know that the voice that calls Elsa initially when we hear it in Arendelle and while they're on their adventure is voiced by the Norwegian singer Aurora, who, if you watch the video on it, I'll leave a link down below so you can see it. The development process for the voice that calls Elsa is cool because they record Aurora singing this vocal track in this giant room, so it has the opportunity to bounce off of walls and just sound so much like larger than life, which is incredible, and it gives us ethereal sound that doesn't even sound real, but that's just what Aurora sounds like. It's really, really cool. Did you know that by the time Frozen 2 happens, Olaf is 3 years old? Okay, that blue color is really freaking nice. I love this color called Water from the palette. Olaf is spitting facts in this movie, obviously, if you haven't seen it, but Olaf makes a point of saying that the water that makes up you and I has passed through at least 4 living beings before becoming part of us, which is so interesting, and I had to look that up to see how entirely true that is, and it seems that that is actually fact, that the water that makes up the majority of you and I as human beings has passed through at least 4 other living beings before becoming part of us. So the packaging on this collection is absolutely stunning. Like, take a look at this. I know this collection has been out obviously for a while, but I am just so impressed with the detail that's in here. And this lipstick is called Little Snow, which is so cute. And then the lip gloss that we're gonna pop on top is called Mythic Journey, which together they are just so beautiful. The lip gloss is super Elsa. It's like a white, frosty, glittery sort of shimmer. And then the lipstick almost emulates her natural lip color, which I think is really pretty. I'm just gonna pop this on my bare lip and I'm gonna blend it through. I don't want it to be super defined. The eyes are quite dramatic on their own with the glitter, so I don't want the lip to be overbearing as well. So I'm just gonna tap this in almost like a natural lip color and then go over top with the gloss to add a little bit of shine, and then we're good that way. Otherwise, let's talk a little bit about Anna, because we haven't really talked about her so much, and we'll talk about Kristoff, which was something that was really interesting about him. Let's talk about that first. Is that his first song, of course, in the Frozen franchise is Reindeers Are Better Than People, which is in the first one when we very first meet Kristoff at Oaken's shop. He's in the shed, he's singing to seemingly only Sven, but of course Anna hears him singing. But that song is reprised in Frozen 2 when he begins to sing his first feature song, which is Lost in the Woods. Now, that song in particular took 18 vocal tracks, which Jonathan Groff sung all on his own. Every vocal track in that song is him. Each reindeer is individually him, which I think really helps play into the effect that it is just a illusion, like none of it's actually really happening, which I thought was really kind of an interesting aspect to the song, and I love it. That's one of my favorite songs in the film. Actually, they're all my favorite songs in the film. Who am I kidding? They're all good. All right, so now I'm just gonna gel up my brows since we finished the majority of everything else, and then the last thing we're gonna touch on is lip, of course. Yeah, it's kind of like that pinky purple. I'm just gonna tap this in. I don't want this to be super defined because the eye is kind of the focus. We've got glitter and everything happening up here. So I'm just going to touch this onto the lip and then I'm gonna go on top with the gloss. Another cool fact, let's talk a little bit about Anna, is in the film you hear her over talking to Hans when they're getting to kind of know each other. She says that the streak in her hair that happened when Elsa initially hit her with her powers when they were children, she dreamed that she was kissed by a troll. Now, what's kind of interesting about that is, and of course, if you've watched the movie enough, you know that she was actually brought by her parents to the trolls to remove that memory. And I assume that, of course, Grandpappy, who took that memory out of her so she doesn't remember that Elsa has powers, left that memory for her just as something sort of interesting and kind of like a tie back to the trolls, which is kind of cool. All right, so the gloss I'm gonna go on top of is the Elsa gloss as well. This guy is called Mythic Journey and it smells so good. It smells like marshmallow. Ooh, so good. Okay, so I don't wanna go in with it with the brush because I don't want it to tint the color, so I'm gonna go in with a actual brush to apply this guy. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me here again today. This is the completed look done with the Elsa collection from ColourPop, and I really love how it turned out. I think the shadows are really nice. The glitters are beautiful. The lip color definitely gives me vibes of Elsa's natural lip color in the film, so I know that there's been a lot of thought put into this collection, which I love. Awesome. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you have any suggestions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down below because of course I'm always going to take requests from you guys that you want to see in this series in particular. If you have a particular film you want to learn about or you want to see a look created, inspired by it, please let me know. But until next time, I'll see you then.